Ladies, member guests, champions! What a great event. Did y'all have a great time on the golf course today? Yeah. Looking forward to tomorrow? How many of you are glad you're off the golf course today? Yeah, a few of you. Well, I'm delighted to be here, and I actually just moved from Pinehurst to Myrtle Beach, and so I'm glad to be back about 3 weeks later. And I'm here tonight to help you ditch your inner critic and release your true champion. Does that sound good? Yeah, okay. But first of all, I want to thank Pinehurst Country Club for putting on this wonderful event. Mary White and Amy Richards and all the rest of their team, and Nancy Sadler. Can we give them a great thank you? Yeah. I want to begin by honoring the woman that this event is dedicated towards honoring, and she's quite the champion. And we know her to be, I got to do this, whoops. Sorry about that. Estelle Lawson Page. She won the North-South 7 times. She was the North Carolina, oh, you can give it up for her. She was the North Carolina Amateur 9 times. She was the North Carolina Women's Amateur Match Play Champion 3 times. And she played in 2 Curtis Cup teams. She was known as the Queen of the Carolinas golf of the era. From the 1930s to the 1950s, she won 20 tournaments. And all of them but one was in the Carolinas, and the other tournament was the U.S. Amateur, which she won in 1937, beating Patty Berg 7-6 in match play. And throughout her career, listen to this, she was known for her terrific luck. She had 17 holes in one. 17. I know some of you had a 17 on a hole, huh? I had an 11 one time. I'm going to talk about that. She grew up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and she's a graduate of the University of North Carolina. I had a little tough time with that since I went to Duke, but you know, that's okay. Her father was the first athletic director at UNC, and she took up golf after college around 1930, and she won her first tournament in 1931. There's a very interesting story, I want to advance this, of how she learned to play golf. She and her father would come down to Pinehurst, and they would stand on the tee and watch champion amateurs and professionals play and practice, and they would take copious notes of their form and style. So she learned golf with her father through studious observation. I think that's quite remarkable. She was also a leader and an innovator. She was the founder of the North Carolina Women's Golf Association, and she served as the first president in 1950. She created the North Carolina Women's Amateur Match Play, which she won 3 consecutive years. She served as president of the Women's Southern Golf Association, and she was held in such high esteem that when the North Carolina Hall of Fame started in 1963, she was included with the first class of inductees and then later included in the Carolinas Golf Hall of Fame. She gave up playing competitive golf at 48 when she underwent a thyroid operation. She was also considered a housewife, a socialite, and a woman of faith. And it's obvious she was a champion golfer and competitor who loved to win. Yeah, give it up for Estelle Lawson Page. Whoops. And you know, it's easy to look at someone with such an incredible record and say, well, she is such a great champion. I can't relate to that. That's not me. But you know what? I believe there's a champion in everyone. I believe there's a champion in you. And tonight, I want to talk to you about releasing your inner champion. You know, I've worked with coaching players of all levels and skill levels, from 10-year-olds to competitive junior golfers to professional golfers to social golfers. And I've always told all my players that you always have at least one competitive advantage. And tonight, most of you here have a competitive advantage. Because if you're 48 or over, guess what? You still playing. And you playing Pinehurst. So you actually have a competitive advantage over Estelle. And you have a second advantage, because being a coach, I'm a trained observer. And back in the day, there was no such thing as a performance coach, but y'all are here, and guess what I am? Your performance coach. So I want to take a few minutes and help you tonight to release your true champion. I've been coaching for many years, and I train under a system that I created called the Champion's Way, Core Foundations for Achieving Peak Performance in Sports and Life. And I've realized that there's a framework of thought that if you get this, you will be able to see the complete picture of how golf is played. And I train people in what peak performance is, the components of it, and how it happens, because most of the time we think that if I just hit more balls or get more lessons, I'll get better. But you know doggone well, some of you today struggled with what? The mental game. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I want you to get this. Peak performance happens from a place of being fully engaged. Can you say that with me? Fully engaged. Oh, you're so good. I'm a coach, so I'm going to engage you here. And to be fully engaged is to be physically energized. Say physically energized. You're such a good class. Mentally focused. Emotionally connected. And spiritually aligned. Now, spiritual in performance is identity, higher purpose, and values. So I want to talk to you about the identity of a champion for a second. Most of the time, you think that being a champion happens when you win the trophy. But I believe being a true champion is a matter of how you see yourself based on two distinguishing features of champions. And the first one is passion. And there I am at 5 years old, and you can tell that that putter is almost as tall as I am, and in my other hand is a trophy. And when my father used to go out and play golf at Latrobe Elks Golf Club in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, I'd go putt for 4 hours straight as a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, because I wanted to win that National Pee Wee putting contest. And so I was either crazy or I had a passion. So anytime you can open up somebody's mind to a new possibility, you've created more passion. And guess what the second distinguishing feature is? Focus. And there I am in the West Penn Amateur in the semifinals, and you can tell I got the eyes of the tiger. And if you can't see that, we all know what Tiger Woods' eyes look like when he was totally focused. So again, anytime you can open up somebody's mind to a new possibility, which creates passion, and take dead aim at a target at the same time, which is focus, you've moved up in what I call your champometer. So everybody here can increase their and their focus. So that makes you a in the making, absolutely. So I want to focus on the mental game part after looking at the spiritual part. I believe that the missing ingredient in peak performance is in helping people to slay their inner critic and release their true champion. And We all have three voices that are continually talking to us all the time. The first voice is, the critic. The critic says what? You can't do that. What are you doing? You can't hit that shot. You're a bad person. You should go home. That person's better than you. It's the one that tells you what? You can't. Oh, you suck. That's the big one. Okay, can I say that? All right. Okay, am I talking to somebody here? That's the critic. And we all have that voice. The second voice is the coach. The coach is the voice that opens up your mind to a new possibility by asking questions like, what if I really believed in myself tomorrow? How could I perform better? What if I just didn't listen to my critical voice and listen to another voice instead? How much better could I do? Oh, it just got real quiet in here, right? Okay, and here's the third voice. This is the champion voice. I love that. Who said that? Say it louder.
I can do it.
Can we say that together? I can do it. The champion voice is the voice that says, I can, I will, I believe. Right? Let's say it together. Y'all are wound up. I can. I will. I believe. Oh, you sound great. That's so great. Okay, so here's the deal. You will never get to your potential from your critical voice. You can only get to your potential from your champion voice. So you know what we need to do? We need to slay our inner critic, right? And I'm going to show you how to do that. But I'm going to need your focus to do it. When you slay your inner critic and you release your true champion, what you're basically doing is creating what's called an ideal performance state. And an ideal performance state is what? Positive. To protect your ideal performance state, you have to construct an internal mental fence that keeps all, how many? Negative thoughts and emotions at bay. Well, how do you do this? You can see up on the slide, you have your critical thoughts going on. You're going to miss this. I'm so bad. Oh no, I'm going to hit it in the water. But within that is what's called your ideal performance state, which is basically the mental emotional state of calm concentration, confidence, connection, enthusiasm, and joy. Would you say the atmosphere in here tonight is an ideal performance state? Yes. So you can feel the energy of an ideal performance state. And what if you would take this mental emotional state out on the golf course with you tomorrow? How can you do that? Where'd my little thing go? We're going to do it. What's so funny? We're going to do it by creating what's called a mental trigger. A mental trigger is some kind of action that you do with your body that tells yourself, I'm not talking to you today. I'm keeping the conversation out there. I'm not going to internalize the battle. I'm going to shut it down. Can you say that with me? Shut it down. How many of you are ready to shut it down? Yeah, shut it down. So I'm going to give you some examples of a mental trigger, but I need you to focus. So I had a 12-year-old named Lexi. She came to me and she was playing in her first world championship. And we got in a conversation. And I said, so how do you feel about playing in your first world championship? She goes, I'm scared. I said, what are you scared about? She goes, I'm scared of what I'm going to think when I hit a bad shot. I said, well, you know you're going to hit some, right? So I said, let's think about ahead of time how you're going to respond to a bad shot. And she didn't know. So I said to her, what do you do when a mosquito lands on your shoulder? She goes, bye-bye. I said, that's what you do with a bad shot. You don't have a conversation with it, you don't have lunch with it, and you don't go to bed with it. You flick it off. And so after the first day, her father came up to me and he goes, my daughter had a 10, and boy, did she flick that thing off like nobody's business. And the next day, he comes up to me and he goes, my daughter just shot the best competitive round of her life. She had a 77. We had the best father-daughter time out on the golf course, and we can't wait to come back next year. And all she began to do was separate her negative from her positive and slay that inner critic. The next example I had was of a lady pro. She was trying to qualify for the US Open, and she had a lot of fear. And I said, well, let's create a mental trigger so when you're out on the golf course, you're not like all over the place. And she used to like to play with guns when she was small. So she already had some kind of affinity. We won't go there. So she would go out on the golf course, and when the critic came up, she would shoot that thing down. And all of a sudden, break out laughing. Can we practice? Ready? Yeah. See, it changed her mental state, didn't it? She ended up qualifying for that leg of the championship. Third example I have was a young competitive junior golfer named Zach. And Zach was your typical fiery, competitive young guy that when he hit a bad shot, he got really angry. And so he came to me shooting mid-70s, and he implemented a mental trigger. And Zach's mental trigger was, not today. He was a stomper. He went out, shot 69, and won his first tournament because he slayed his inner critic and released his true champion. I do a one-day workshop for social golfers called Breakthrough to Your A Game. And as I was doing this for a ladies golf association, one of the ladies came up to me afterwards. Her name was Gail. And she said, I got my mental trigger. And I said, what is it? She said, when I'm out on the course and those critical thoughts come up to me, I consider that my evil twin sister. And I say, shut up and go home. I'm not talking to you today. So she was like a door slammer. So I have an assignment for you. You're playing in a two-lady best ball tomorrow? Scramble? Scramble. So I want you, with your partner, to pick a mental trigger. And I want you to implement it tomorrow. And it doesn't matter if it is to flick. Can we all practice? How many flickers? Bye-bye. Oh, y'all better than that. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Bye-bye. Oh, that's good. All right. How many flickers are in the room? All right. The next one is shooters. If you're a shooter, stand up. We're going to practice. A shooter. You're going to shoot down the bad shot. The third one is a stomper. Practice. 1, 2, 3. Not today. You have to add language. 1, 2, 3. Not today. All right? The last one again is the door slammer. I'm not talking to you today. Okay, I need you to focus. Thank you. Now, there's one prerequisite for this to work. You have to have what's called a growth mindset. Because if you have a fixed mindset, which says, I've been playing golf for 50 years and it's not going to get any better and this is just the way I play and I'm just glad to be out here, you're not going to improve. But if you have a growth mindset, you like to stretch. You like to be open to going to the edge of your potential. And I want to kind of finish up by sharing with you the most inspirational student I've ever had, and that person was my mom. When my mother was 85 years old, she was given 6 months to live with a terminal heart condition. And we were emotionally estranged my whole life. We loved one another, but she thought the game was stupid. And she had to quit school in the 5th grade to earn a living in the Depression. So she was a worker her whole life, and she had a theology of suffering. So I was out playing a game, and I had my degrees, and we just had miles apart of separation. And so when she was given that death sentence, I kind of put everything down because I had a whole different kind of championship. My dad died when I was 15. I only got to play 9 holes with him one time before he passed. And I prayed for 25 years. I said, Lord, don't take my mom until I know her, because I can't bear the thought of not knowing at least one of my parents. And at the time, I was given a $100,000 scholarship for a PhD in leadership, and I had to decide what the pearl of great price was. So after some time of consideration, I decided to give up my scholarship for the championship of reaching my mother's heart. And I can just remember saying, I'm going to reach your heart before you die. I don't care what it costs, what it takes, how it's going to happen, but I'm going to reach your heart. And it was a whole different kind of championship. And at the time, I was going through a life coach certification, and so they taught you all these relational skills. And I thought, if I could crack the code of my critical mother's heart, I can crack anything. Anything else would be easier. So I bought her dog, bought her cat, took her old folks' homes, but everybody was too old for Mildred. So finally one day, out of exasperation, I just said, Mom, that's it, I've had it, put your tennis shoes on, we're going to the golf course. So we get to the golf course, and I hand this little old woman an 8-iron. And my mother, I wish I could do this, takes a waggle. Ma, where'd you get that waggle? I don't waggle the club. She goes, oh, that's how Tiger Woods does it. I said, you watching too much Tiger Woods. And my mother proceeds to take a big old backswing, swing down, and pop that sucker almost 100 yards on her first try. You know how dog kind of goes like this? I was like, Ma, I thought I got it from Dad. 40 years later, we're both catching a revelation. So I put another ball down. My mom takes another waggle, takes a big old backswing, swings down, and by the 3rd ball, my mother, who wanted to die, I'll never forget it. She looked at me with fresh fire in her eyes, and she goes, put another ball down. And that started my mother's golf career at 85 years old. We had a perfect friendship on the golf course. Whenever we might be arguing, I'd say, Mom, let's just stop and go to the golf course. And it organized us, you know? And there we are, playing together. I said, you know you're getting older when you're the one that gains weight and your mom the one that loses it and she's wearing your pants. And can you, this is not one of my mother's better days, but I wanted to show you this little video. This is you got to back it up. Sorry, that's me. Mildred's 4 steps to hitting a golf ball. She's 88 years old there. Do you know that shot? Now watch, see how she's going to line it? That's natural. Now watch this. There's her. She's like, the heck with it. Give Mildred a hand. Yeah. So at 88, I helped her start a house cleaning business. She had her first paid modeling shoot. At 89, she started public speaking. At 90, I told her it was time for her first tournament, so I organized the first Grandma Open and brought together the generations. And at 91, my mother died, my best friend. And all that you see there is natural. And she used to tell me that her stepfather made her give up playing basketball because it scuffed up her one pair of shoes when she was 11. So I went out and I brought her those bright pink Nike tennis shoes. I said, I'm going to help you run all the way to the finish line. And we did, and we turned that death sentence of 6 months around to almost 7 fruitful years. And I always tell people, she was literally blossoming while she was dying. And I was trying to help her to die well. And the more I observed her, because remember, I was being trained as an observer, I shifted my mindset to I'm going to help her live well. And I realized this amazing thing that there's an energy in the use of gifts and talents that is not age specific. That if you will just continue to cultivate your gifts and talents and develop your game, your body, your mind, you will max out your life. And that's what she did. And she would also say, if I wasn't sure I'd be gone years ago. But it was a beautiful story of how there's always more. There's more inside of you. And if Mildred could blossom while she was on the way out, what's your excuse? There's more. There's more for you. And let me tell you something. The greatest gift you can leave your kids and your grandkids is not money and is not things, but the knowledge of who you really are as a champion. Because if Mom and I didn't go down that trip together, I wouldn't have any memories today. I would have not seen the champion in her. I didn't know my mom was the athlete. I didn't know my mom had a gift for communication. I didn't know any of these things. And I remember standing there looking at it and say, this woman is about to die. Forget the fact that she's even my mother. And she doesn't know what's inside of her. I don't know what's inside of her, but she doesn't know what's inside of her. And it was the game of golf that brought it out, because that game helps you to be physically energized, mentally focused, emotionally connected, and spiritually aligned. My mom passed on to me the greatest treasure she could give me, and that was a peek into who she was as a champion. I've always thought, having lived here in Pinehurst for many years, that you come here or you live here and you play these championship golf courses, and there's all these championships that come here. And if you're gonna live here and play championship golf courses, you might as well be a champion. You might as well max out your passion, max out your focus, and do it all the way to the finish line. because the championship isn't over until the final putt. See, this isn't church, but that was a good place to say amen. And the second thing is to leave a champion. And so what does that mean? It means that my mental decision to be stronger than my emotional reactions, that's a champion. A champion is someone that can turn a disempowering emotion into an empowering emotion at will. So I want you to practice this, because this is the key to your emotional state on the golf course. Anytime you perceive something as a threat, it will evoke negative emotions. Fear, anxiety. Anytime you see something as a challenge, it will evoke positive emotions. So tomorrow on the course, whether you can hit the shot or not, just say, I got this shot. I got this shot. The putt's going to drop. Yeah. So, as I finish up, I'm declaring, can we do this? Are we in the game together? I'm declaring tomorrow to be a no negativity day. Tomorrow is a no negativity day. You know how to use your mental trigger. And this is what I do when negativity is around me, because we like to be nice to one another, right? I'll just smile at someone if they're negative and I say, didn't you know today's a no negativity day? It works. It works. So as I finish up, I want to thank you very much. That was a mental trigger. I want to invite you all to give me your feedback. I want to invite you all to a free training that I'm doing next week. It's online. It's on Zoom. It's a great way to regather. I'm going to teach you how to observe your own game. I'm going to teach you how to debrief a competition and get the inner win. And the little slip of paper that you have here, my website is truechampionacademy.com. If you go on there and just join my free community, all the information, there's a book I wrote on it, My Shot of Joy, A Miraculous Journey of Redeeming a Lost Mother-Daughter Relationship. But if you join the free community, all the information will be there. And you'll also find some information on a 1-month champ camp I'm going to do for you all. And that information is on there as well. So I encourage you, pull out your phone, do the QR code, sign up. If you sign up tonight, before tonight is over, I'm going to do a drawing for someone to win a free one-on-one coaching session with me. So sign up before you leave. And I'll be over here with some books. And I just want to leave you with this thought. Regardless of how you play tomorrow, if you miss a shot, I just want you to hear Mildred say, put another ball down. And so with that, thank you so much, and let the games begin. Thank you. How do you turn this off?